Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a stack of source material that tackles something almost everyone grapples with. The often confusing and, let's be honest, sometimes frustrating world of dating, relationships, and love.
Yeah, and our focus today is specifically through the lens of one man's very personal journey, his reflections. We're drawing heavily from excerpts of a book titled Avoiding the Dating Games: How to Spot a Potential Relationship.
That's right. And our mission here is to take this material and, extract the most important nuggets, the really actionable insights. Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to being well-informed on some common pitfalls and, more importantly, potential pathways to healthier connections, all tailored just for you, the listener.
Absolutely. So get ready for personal stories, some pretty candid observations about cultural conditioning, some practical advice too, and a deeper look at the inner work that the author believes is absolutely required if you're seeking, real lasting love.
Okay, let's unpack this. The author, an African-American man, starts by sharing experiences that he feels many others, particularly African-American men, can really relate to when it comes to love, dating, relationships, sex, all of it.
He opens with a really striking realization he had about his own life. Despite feeling like he possessed many qualities that, women supposedly want, he lists things like being physically attractive, intelligent, positive, someone who reads, loves community, respects women, dedicated to inner growth, loyal, nonviolent, college-educated, no kids, never incarcerated. You get the picture.
Yeah, the whole list.
Right. But even with all that, he found himself perpetually single, with very few prospects for what he calls real love.
And there's this quote he includes from a female friend, which just kind of highlights that disconnect, right? She told him, "So Mumba, you know you got it going on. Come on, man. You're not like most of the men out here who only want a piece of ass. You read, you love your community, and just are on some different stuff."
It really does underscore that puzzle, having these seemingly desirable traits, yet still feeling stuck. So the author explains his motivation for writing the book is, well, it's a culmination of his dating experiences, his research, and also his work with singles and couples. He intends it to be an opening salvo, as he puts it, to get people looking at the root of their issues in relationships, not just, the surface problems.
And he identifies a central problem underlying a lot of the difficulty people face: the high divorce rates, the single-parent homes. He argues these stem from what he calls the flawed practice of dating in this culture.
Yeah, and he notes this is a shared experience, especially among African Americans, where despite our, individual uniqueness, there are these glaring similarities in negative experiences. The focus, he says, often gets locked onto the after effect or symptoms, which leads people to blame the other person's flaw in their character.
Right, and that cycle, that blaming of the other person, just feeds into those broad, often negative generalizations we sometimes hear, like all men are like this or most women are like that.
Yeah. Precisely. And he contrasts this sort of widespread experience with what he sees as the rarity of truly happy couples. And he defines happy very specifically. It's not just like looking good together on the outside. It's being self-assured, interdependent, and fulfilled couples, inwardly secure, who love one another and everything else around them, like daily.
Okay.
He explicitly contrasts this with what he calls the codependent, overly testosterone estrogen-laced, and visually connected type of moment that many swear is love.
Wow, that's a really powerful distinction right there at the start.
Yeah.
It's not about appearances, it's about that inner state and interdependence. So moving into his early experiences, the source briefly touches on his family history. Things like his parents' relationship, his father's involvement in the movement and being targeted, even the unsolved killing of his father's mentor. It's presented as background, giving context.
Yeah, just setting the stage for his formative years and maybe some of the complexity he grew up around. He then shares this really interesting anecdote he titles, Never Satisfied, Trading Up. He was dating someone named Tanya, who sounds, great on paper, described as intelligent, knowledgeable, connected to the community. They met during a period of peak activism.
Okay.
But despite all that, something just never felt right for him.
Then, through Tanya, he meets Raina, and he says they instantly connected. He admits his mistake here, though, continuing to date Tanya under what he calls the delusion that me being a good brother would eventually win her heart, even after finding out about another guy, Andre.
Uh-huh. And the turning point in this specific story comes during, a homecoming incident. There was a small car accident. He was drunk. Tanya gets angry, understandably, perhaps, but Raina is supportive.
Okay.
Soon after, he stops dating Tanya when she's caught kissing Andre. And then he gets into the relationship with Raina, but he describes it as being by default simply because she was there.
Oof. And the big lesson he draws from this whole situation, he says he wasn't truly in love with Raina, but he realizes, like many men perhaps, he was always looking to trade up.
And this introduces a major theme for him, this subconscious desire to upgrade. He reflects on how even in decent relationships, men deep down might be thinking of ways to be with or, upgrade to a better woman, someone who always seems to be out of our reach.
Hmm.
He traces this pattern back early in his own life from elementary school crushes he didn't pursue and then settling for the next best thing, as he puts it.
He also talks pretty candidly about his college experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Describes an overabundance of sexual experiences, saying he slept with more women during that time than any in my life.
Mm-hmm.
He notes the environment was just, well, ripe for sexual explorations.
Yeah.
He shares an initial mistake with someone named Charlene, who he was physically attracted to, but who just didn't get him.
Mm-hmm.
This led him to pursue Zinnia, who was apparently less attractive, but showed more interest.
And he analyzes this shift. He notes that he initially didn't set out to conquer women, but that early experience with Charlene had skewed my view. Over time, he says he began to exploit the opposite sex for my own sexual gain, even reaching a point of sleeping with 5 women in 2 days.
Wow. But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit counterintuitive. He says the ironic thing was that the more I had sex, the more unsatisfactory it became.
Right.
He realized that deep inside, what I really longed for was love in a real relationship.
That's a crucial turning point in his perspective, isn't it? He connects this to his growing activism during that same period. As his involvement increased, his focus on purely sexual relationships decreased. This led him to see how, as he puts it, all of our problematic relationships were connected to deeper issues happening both on and off campus, reaching into our community.
Mm-hmm.
So he slowly began to shy away from one-night stands and what he saw as, meaningless relationships.
He includes the poppin' my cherry story, too, his very first sexual experience with Pam. He describes the awkward initial attempts, specific details of the encounter, his first orgasm, and he highlights an immediate lesson learned about pleasing a woman, mentioning the lick it before you stick it technique,
Okay.
which he says led to him becoming an expert in oral explorations.
His reflection on this specific experience in that time is key, though. He sees his actions then as more immature, ignorant, and unconscious thing than malicious.
Yeah.
He believes many young men base relationships primarily on sex for those similar reasons, just lack of awareness, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. He felt that wanting things like understanding, communication, cooperation, and to feel appreciated just felt like asking too much at that point in his life.
Right.
So moving past college, where does his journey take him next? He discusses the Tamika relationship. Met her after graduating. She had a boyfriend, but he was out of state. The author admits that after prior rejections, his cynicism turned into my game, meaning he'd be romantic with women he liked, but treat those he didn't like as much very differently, kind of transactionally maybe.
Mm-hmm.
His initial playa hate mode towards Tamika's boyfriend actually backfired on him. He ended up chasing her, moved to California, and during that time, he vowed not to get involved with someone who was already involved.
Okay, so a lesson learned there. But the story with Tamika continues when he returns to Baton Rouge later. They reconnect as friends, and she's now truly single. Her boyfriend had apparently lied, cheated, had a child, the whole 9 yards.
Ouch.
So despite his vow and telling her he wasn't trying to be her big brother or male girlfriend because, nice guys like myself get misinterpreted, feelings grew.
Uh-oh.
He describes himself during this relationship as a faithful, consistent kind of guy, consciously working to return to his mother's instructions about respect. But he felt she deceived him in the end. The relationship deteriorated as she apparently kept talking to her ex.
So, feeling disillusioned with Louisiana, Louisiana as he calls it, he makes a big move. New York City. Arrives with only $300. Immediately gets hit with the high cost of living. Recounts a $1,600 dinner bill his sister had to pay.
Wow, welcome to New York.
Right. He learned 2 practical lessons. Never offer to take a woman out if you can't pay the whole bill. And yeah, NYC's incredibly expensive.
But his motivation for the move was significant, wasn't it? To start his writing career, meet that idealized essence-type woman, and just escape the limited options he felt were in Louisiana. He was inspired by a prior visit, the parties, the fine women, as he describes them.
But he shares some early NYC dates that quickly kind of shattered some of those romantic illusions.
Yes.
There was Asmara seemed to have class amidst party women, engaging eyes. They had a great jazz date, strolled the West Village. He thought he might have found someone good, but she insisted on this really long train ride home to the Bronx, seemed to cut the night short.
Hmm.
Then there was Princess from Newark. That date involved him needing money wired to him, her seeing his unfurnished apartment,
Hmm.
only for her to reveal she was in love with a man who was in prison.
Oh, boy. Yeah, those experiences definitely altered his view that I might easily find my soulmate here.
Eh,
He uses the Essence Music Festival as both an escape and like an observation point. He contrasts the women there, friendly, smiling faces, with NYC women whom he felt were often avoiding eyes and screw-face frowns. Harsh, maybe, but that was his perception.
yeah.
He saw the festival as a smorgasbord of women, a place to escape the craziness. Met NYC cops there who attended for similar reasons, interestingly enough.
He notes the festival mixes music and empowerment seminars, but also has a strong, what he calls a pea hunt mentality.
Which means?
Essentially, men focus purely on finding sexual encounters. He mentions a friend just wanting to get laid, almost paying for sex.
Yikes.
The author, though, met many women, collected numbers, but often just ended up talking.
And this leads him to introduce his theory of the 6 major types of women here in NYC. It ranges from the rare, married and happy, to what he calls a man's worst nightmare, bitter with issues.
Oh, dear.
His conclusion after all these experiences, man, is it hard to catch a break. But still, I believe that the right woman is out there. Still hopeful.
Okay. Then he talks about the Pat relationship in Houston. Getting off the plane, seeing her smiling face had the same healing effect on him as arriving at Essence Fest. He describes this surprise romantic setup she did. Rose petals, food made him think finally she's the one.
That feeling.
Yeah. He pushed for them to live together. They even looked for apartments.
Like the others, this one also started to unravel. He points out his mistakes, thinking she'd look for a job and apartment in NYC. Instead, she mentioned Jersey, focused on saving money.
Okay, practical differences.
Right, but also, critically, he says she didn't support his writing career. The physical attraction began to wear off, and her troubled past and conservative politics began to come out. He realized at this point the need for creating a forum to talk about relationships in the community, but this just wasn't something that interested Pat.
So based on all these experiences, the author starts identifying patterns, laying out what he sees as common dating pitfalls, and offering advice. He shares this scenario, night out with the sisters. Describes the bachelor's dilemma, being at an event, seeing multiple attractive, smart, single friends.
Right, the pressure.
Yeah, how do you make the correct choice? Is it wrong to explore excellent options by talking to more than one woman? Links back to that trading up idea.
Despite his public persona, he admits he was actually very shy. He observed some women at this event gravitating towards the salacious and heavily gyrating dancing brothers.
Okay.
He ended up talking with his sister, who also noticed these things, but he felt he lost a chance with her by mentioning his initial interest in the big 3 attractive friends he saw when he walked in.
Foot and mouth, maybe.
Perhaps. Their conversation covered topics like gay marriage, women in videos, and reflecting on why they were both single, despite seemingly having good qualities.
He then recounts meeting someone he labels Miss Right. Shalonda at the 2001 Essence Fest. Describes her as a refreshing contrast to NYC women. Highlights her physical beauty, positive qualities, attended an HBCU, loved her father, read the same books, on a spiritual journey.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. On paper, she possessed desired intangibles, he says. They spent 4 great days in NYC, limited physical contact, exploring cultural sites, talking about the future, past crazy dates.
Sounds promising. But then, after this encounter, there's a period he calls threesome. He retreats socially after his father's passing and his niece's birth, refocuses on family, healing,
Understand.
attends a jazz concert alone, notes the mostly white crowd at jazz events, lack of black patronage despite black musicians creating the music. Just an observation he makes. During this time, he says he rationalized his dating struggles as karma or God's plan, wrote a poem feeling shunned, past illusions shattered.
Then he shares the Debbie experience. Brief interaction at a jazz festival. She cut the conversation short. Called back days later expressing concerns about intimacy, not being on the same page. He quickly lost interest.
And this leads him to reflect on the reality of what he calls the busy sister. He contends she's often not really too busy if truly interested, but might have issues with priorities or be having second thoughts or maybe seeing someone else and keeping you just in case.
It's the irony, right? Men doing this are called players.
Exactly. He says Debbie's lack of sensuality and front prompted significant reflection in him and actually led him to a period of celibacy.
Okay, so that celibacy period seems important.
Very. This reflection is where he really digs into his view on why men trade up or cheat. He argues it's often due to relationship immaturity and evolution, not getting involved for healthy reasons, thinking the grass is greener, not truly knowing love or respect.
Or the woman letting herself go. He mentions that too.
Right. Or untranscended primal animal urges. He believes it's not always malicious, but a misuse of the biological drive, using it just for pleasure. He references the Metu Netter Afrocentric guide analogy of Hermaket, the Sphinx. Explaining it symbolizes man's triumph over that lower animalistic nature.
Interesting.
He sees celibacy partly as a result of reflecting on all this after the debacle with Debbie, as he calls it.
So from this reflection, he presents a list of what he sees as all too common mistakes and myths in dating.
Oh.
First is that cultural conditioning leads people to misunderstand dating and love promoting false ideas like love at first sight or that instant chemistry is all you need.
Then there are, superficial requirements, height, money, judging someone by their dancing or first kiss, or the myth that you can know in 5 minutes if there's potential, that whole "you had me at hello" thing.
Yeah.
He also directly tackles the myth that there aren't enough good men. Argues this is manipulated by culture and media. His core argument is plenty exist, but women must first unlearn conditioning, find security within themselves, and focus on being a good woman themselves.
The bad boy thug myth gets discussed too. He suggests this type is maybe preferred by younger women for excitement or perceived safety, but it's often regretted later after negative experiences. He argues this preference causes women to bypass the good men who are available.
And he stresses that true security comes from within, not from some external partner, especially not necessarily a bad boy type.
Right.
He touches on the dating services. Quick Fix Myth says they're useful for meeting people, sure, but the necessary inner work is still needed to build a real relationship. You can't outsource that.
And finally, a crucial myth he highlights. I know what a healthy relationship is. The author sees this belief as egocentric, literally edging God out. He used that acronym, EGO.
Yeah, stemming from resistance to help or self-reflection. He argues the world doesn't actually support healthy relationships. So few people truly know what one looks like or how to be in one without doing that inner work first.
He also turns the lens around, sharing what brothers want, addressing behaviors he believes women exhibit that push men away. What are some key ones he mentions?
Okay, he lists attitude, looks specifically saying men prefer women with meat on her bones and natural beauty over excessive makeup or extensions. That's his perspective. Also, views being defensive or cynical about black men based on bad experiences or media portrayals. Always being at clubs, he sees it as a bad environment. And selfishness, which he feels is often disguised as independence or control, withholding love.
Okay. Then from a male perspective, he offers 10 ways to spot a potential relationship for women. The sex factor is key here. He says an evolved man wants more than just sex, has impulse control, seeks intellectual, spiritual, artistic, cultural dates, not just the standard movie dinner home routine.
Right. The control factor is another one. He says an evolved man is a protector provider of love, direction, physical protection, but is flexible, secure, doesn't need to always be right. Controlling behavior is the opposite of this evolved state, in his view.
Makes sense.
And a spiritual man, in his framework, knows God, he works through him daily, lives love, isn't just outwardly religious or pious, it's deeper than that.
He also includes 10 rules for divorced and/or dating with children. Covers important stuff like dealing with baby daddy drama or being separated but not yet divorced. He stresses the need for clear arrangements, closure, and significant healing time before dating again.
Yeah, and other rules include being understanding if a partner pays child support, enjoy less expensive dates, realizing having kids doesn't automatically guarantee connection that's spiritual in a work again, and emphatically states no sex with your ex, feels it's unfair to a new partner, prevents moving on.
He strongly emphasizes time. Not setting arbitrary deadlines, but taking sufficient time to process, heal, read, pray, meditate, yoga, whatever works.
Right.
Warns against no shortcuts in dating. Don't date until truly ready. Suggests meeting people through events of interest rather than just relying on online strangers.
Now, rule number 8, your kids don't come first.
That's
definitely provocative. Might sound counterintuitive. How does he justify that one?
His reasoning is, well, you must take care of yourself first to be a truly present and good parent, like the oxygen mask on the plane analogy, maybe.
Sort of. He argues hiding behind kids or overcompensating stunts your own growth can enable unhealthy dynamics. He emphasizes self-care, balance, boundaries essential for both parent and child long term.
Okay, I see the logic there. The package deal rule advises not initially presenting yourself and kids as a package up front. Connect with the person first.
Uh-huh. If they don't have kids, they should build a relationship with your children over time. Don't expose kids too early to new partners. Makes sense.
And finally, time part two acknowledges the dating terrain changes after long relationships, reinforces the need to keep learning and evolving.
So he's clearly not just focused on fixing external dating behaviors or simple lists of rules, right?
Huh.
The source goes much deeper, looking at our inner landscape, the root of drama. He offers 10 ways to break the drama choice. Starts with the core message. Drama is fundamentally a choice.
He points out seeing others as enemies often stems from self-hatred. You absorb their negativity, but it's often about them first. The "but I'm only human" excuse. He views that as denying our spiritual nature, our potential as children of God.
Right. He views The Matrix, his specific term, not the movie, as
Yeah.
this cycle of concentrated addiction, fear, imagined outward need, has nothing to do with real love or ending drama.
And the ego, again, edging God out, implanted false thoughts leading to wrong choices, creating drama.
He argues addiction to drama stems from not feeling alive without it, seeking validation outside the self, which is the very opposite of peace.
And underlying much of it is the fear factor. Fear of failure, fear of success, self-imposed limits, denying our divine worthiness.
He emphasizes that each day presents a choice. Live in fear and drama or choose courage and love.
He connects this back to relationships with the no more drama, NAD respect for relationships and dating rules. These reinforce avoiding drama by respecting others' relationships, not having sex first, not leaving one relationship for another, avoiding first dates at home, basically, setting healthy boundaries up front.
All of this just keeps reinforcing the importance of inner work, doesn't it? The true change, the ability to break these cycles, comes from within, not just changing who you date or your external behaviors.
Absolutely. And a really powerful moment shared in the source is the author's subway revelation in fall 2006 after his mother's passing.
Ah, yes. Tell us about that.
He describes this profound moment of release from worry, doubt, fear, anger, frustration, replaced by a sense of knowing, power, possibility, universal connection, deep inner peace. Said he saw the world as an illusion, reality naked, felt life loving me, where he'd previously feared it.
Wow, that sounds incredibly profound. How did that inner shift, that revelation, change his perspective on his past dating struggles and mistakes?
Well, he realized his past mistakes showed where I was, not who I was, and that this new inner state empowered him. He mentions brief later dating experiences, Randy, Frederica, that illustrates continued learning, even if connections weren't deep or didn't last.
But critically, he notes a different mindset on his last date. He went out without the expectation of romance, just wanting connection, or even just enjoying the event alone. That's a significant shift.
Yeah, a huge shift in internal state and external goal. And this whole journey leads him to the concept of a spiritual partnership.
Okay, what does that entail?
He argues you can build a healthy relationship now, but it absolutely requires understanding the true meaning of love, which he defines as selflessness.
Yeah, and he sees this as actively going against the conditioning from parents and culture. He acknowledges it's a struggle against a system that, he believes, enforces selfishness.
He even highlights a one-year plan toward total empowerment as a concrete path. It involves introspection, organization, study, practice, patience, love, confrontation. Includes specific reading recommendations, seed of the soul for a spiritual partnership, unconditional love for practicing selflessness, others too.
And it also involves self-care, growth activities like studying history, getting in shape physically and mentally. The core message is, you are not powerless if your actions are geared toward love, growth, empowerment, evolution. He powerfully references the idea that the kingdom of heaven is within, the power is internal.
Ultimately, the core message from a section titled Why Love Escaped You, It's Not Personal, gets reiterated. The author believes dynamics for relationship failure are set culturally, historically. But knowledge, introspection, and inner work are the keys to overcoming these obstacles.
It's a really compelling journey, isn't it? From focusing on external desires and feeling like maybe a victim of circumstance or flawed partners, to understanding that real change and the ability to find healthy relationships comes from deep within by addressing those inner issues and consciously choosing love and selflessness.
So thinking about all this,
Yeah.
what does this entire journey and these insights mean for you, the listener, right now? We've taken a deep dive into this material, covering the author's personal story, the pitfalls he identified, the specific advice, and that profound emphasis he places on inner transformation as the real pathway.
It really makes you consider how cultural conditioning, maybe your own family history, unresolved issues, the state of your own inner work, how all that might be contributing to repeating patterns in your own dating life. Are there myths, maybe common mistakes discussed here that you've perhaps bought into without even realizing it?
Yeah, and based on this source, are there areas of inner growth or healing or self-care that might be the most crucial thing for you to address right now, perhaps even before or, while navigating the dating world?
And here's a final thought to leave you with. Given the author's journey and his ultimate revelation that finding a truly healthy relationship is less about finding the one who completes you externally and more about two inwardly secure individuals committing to grow together, what does that fundamentally mean for how you approach dating from this point forward? And maybe how you view your own readiness for that kind of connection?